then we will call this meeting to order. Remind everyone, it doesn't sound like you have to try very hard to speak into your microphone. So let us start with a roll call. Sean Hewitt.
Here.
Patricia Mosby.
Here.
Kimberly Sorensen.
Here.
John Stone is here. Richard Tugman. Richard is absent. Sackett Wood.
Here.
And Kevin Peterzak.
Here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So let us start with a welcome to our new member, Kevin Peterzak. Kevin is President of Public Safety and Professional Communications at L3 Harris Technologies. Margette shared with us a very nice bio that I will not read out loud, but we're really excited to have you with us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Honored to be appointed as part of the EDA.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you serving. Look forward to having you on board. Let's look at the minutes from our March 20th meeting. Does anybody have any comments or suggestions before I accept a motion to approve those minutes as presented?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Those minutes are approved. Let's see here. Next up will be a discussion again on the incentive policy. Margette.
Thank you. Welcome again, Kevin. Probably 2 meetings ago, I just brought forward your incentive policy has been around for quite some time. We look at it on a regular basis to see what may need to be tweaked as far as the incentive policy goes. I would suffice it to say that the incentive policy was probably originally drafted to follow alongside the state incentives, because whenever there's an expansion or a business attraction project and the state is going to be involved with incentives, the Economic Development Authority of the city needs to match that. So we've always, the numbers that we had in there, and just for point of clarification, the way the incentives are calculated from the state's perspective, we are all really interested in the jobs. Make no mistake about that. But they can capture the jobs in terms of Virginia Employment Commission. They have access to information that I don't necessarily have. We, on the other hand, have access to real estate and capital investment information that they are not going to have. So we kind of balance each other out there in terms of how our incentives are calculated. However, in this last administration, this governor is extremely assertive in closing deals, and especially we know that we all want the job creation. Certainly the capital investment is important, but the job creation is critically important. So I gave you an overview and put an example out there based on what has come before you with the last several expansion projects or business attraction projects, and how we navigated those and what was needed to be done. So we have a policy in place so that I'm allowed to talk with prospects, talk with existing businesses, and give them an idea of what the incentive would be in order for them to choose Lynchburg for the city of Lynchburg for the expansion, or to locate their business there. So you all approve the policy, and that allows me to talk about it. You all know that at the bottom of any incentive proposal, it says you have to have the money, all of you all have to vote on it, and you always can go and consider special circumstances and vote on things that might not be in the policy. But because this has happened 2 or 3 times, and we really want to be able to support the job creation side of it, I just put out there a proposal that fell in line with what we have seen and kind of caps it off that it needs to be a rather substantial job increase or job creation in order to trigger it. So what I would say this morning is, because you've been operating with 6 people instead of your full 7, and that can make the committees a little wonky. So if you would rather have this go back to the incentive committee to look at, but I think we talked about it and we were going into closed session to talk about an expansion, and you all were going to vote on it when you came out, and I just let it get by me and didn't get a vote on it. But I'm open to however you would like to have it done.
350 is the max.
That's what's on the policy.
Right.
But we probably, we probably should consider, I mean, you know, the number of jobs that they create. Yeah, we've got 350 on there as a max, I think, right? Well, 350 is the max of the incentive, right?
But I mean, because it looks like you could have, what, a company with 30 additions that meets the
Yeah.
salary and get up
It's-
to a
yeah,
certain point,
it's
but
a-
then you could have 1,000 jobs and still only both get 350. But I
Right,
guess
well,
you'd have the state
350 is the
number.
cap that we put
Right.
on there, but we would bring anything like that, and that's a great point, Sean, I hadn't thought about that. That you might put in there, because we're not, if you're bringing 515 jobs, as you know, we're not gonna tell you we're not gonna incentivize that,
Right.
right? So the EDA can always meet and choose to go, which you have on every incentive for the last 2 or 3 that have come through. You can go above that 350. But I would imagine that these things are going to come to a point where, you know, we'll be interfacing with city council when we talk about the incentives, the incentive money, and where that comes in there. But I'm open to looking at it anyway. I just didn't want to let it get by me. I can certainly bring that as well as what the cap is on there. There used to be no cap, right? No cap on the amount of money. What the caveat was that you all could meet and decide based on the project to go above the 350. And that might be a good safeguard, right? That you all have to meet and really lean into it to be able to go ahead of that. But we haven't had one that, you know, that was 350 cap there in quite a while. Oh, wow. Probably, I'd say 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah.
So there was no cap in place originally?
No.
Okay. So you had mentioned a few moments ago something about maybe a special circumstance or something that they would take a look at. Does that
You
mean-
all always have the ability to look at what the project is and go above and beyond
Okay.
what the 350 is.
Okay.
Right? You always have that. And if you didn't have that capability, you're not going to be effective.
Okay.
Because the projects are going to come as they are. You're not going to necessarily, I mean, yes, you might not have money in your coffers to be able to deal with that, but we would always go, we would then go to city council.
Was there an instance that triggered putting in the cap? I mean,
Yes. I think it
What?
was
I have the same question.
yeah, I think it was an incentive. I'm not going to mention the name of the company.
Okay.
I think it was also that over the years, in many municipalities, a lot of your incentives are built into taxes. So they are either an abatement of the taxes in lieu of a cash grant. And so there weren't, the ones that were built into the city's ordinances were either wide open, like they didn't have a cap, and they weren't written as tightly as perhaps they needed to be, so I think I went to council. Mitch Knuckles and I, the Commissioner of Revenue, and I worked together to clean some of those up. There aren't many, but there was one. And then at that point in time, because you all were the sole providers of incentives, which you still are, that's when we put, you know, the 350 on there.
I personally don't feel like this is super time sensitive, and I'd kind of like to kick the whole thing back to the incentive committee to have them just review all the language, talk about that cap. I think we're all generally on board with increasing, because we know that in order to keep pace with what the Commonwealth is doing and other things, we need to.
Right.
But I think it would make sense to have the whole thing reviewed and just make sure it's all clear where we're going moving forward.
Right.
And then have incentive make a recommendation back to the full board.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Yes. So we won't be doing that today when the
Understood.
incentive committee
Understood.
meets.
That's probably good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions on that before we move on? All right, what's next? Staff report?
Yeah, I'm just going to go down the staff report. We have been incredibly busy. Lots and lots of things going on. One of the big things is that the Ivy Creek sites A and B, we've done our virtual site presentation to VEDP and their consultants for the Virginia Business Ready Sites Program. We've applied for $2.25 million to assist with the road and utilities going to those sites. So they will be coming here Wednesday?
23rd.
Yeah. They're coming on the 23rd for us to make a in-person presentation to them for that. So that's kind of a big deal. And we also have gone to council to get a resolution to apply for $700,000 from VDOT for the Economic Access Program in VDOT. So we could be looking at, we had due diligence done on the Ivy Creek sites A and B. We had programmed CIP for $2.4 million in FY25. The due diligence and the CIP submission did not coincide. So when due diligence was finally finished, I had a gap between what I'd put in CIP and what due diligence said it was probably going to cost. And now the whole world is upside down, so I don't know what it's going to cost. But I've done everything that I possibly can to try to access grant funding to get the road and the utilities to those sites. And so we will go through, we went through this program to even get the money for due diligence, because we had money in the CIP and council took it out, but they've left the money in there now. I'm very grateful. We're all very grateful for that. But they will be here on the 23rd, and we'll make a presentation. It's a competitive grant process with all the other municipalities, and so I'm looking forward to that being over.
So if you are awarded the VBRSP grant for $2.25 or anything up to that, that would be used for road and utilities?
Yes, and it will come through you all. So the actual applicant for the grant process is the EDA, which is what we do everything through. And the same thing goes for the economic access.
And
They'll
for-
let me know what needs to be done there.
And for Kevin's benefit, will you remind us what are sites A and B?
Yeah, sites A and B are at the bottom of your industrial park. So that industrial park that you're located in, Kevin, where L3 Harris is located in the city, was originally an EDA industrial park. We have very little land left. You see it's pretty built out. The land was a farm, the Pew Farm, I think, right, Ted? So the property was originally assembled by the EDA for Frito-Lay. And then all the other, businesses came in and bought parcels there. So at the very end of the street, where you see Lynchburg Lane, which is a little offshoot down there, Dominion Block or Boxley Block is on one side and Virginia Metal Treating is on the other. There's a cul-de-sac right there. You all own all of that property back behind there. And so we have been able to get 2 sites for potential expansion of an existing business here or attraction of a new business here. In that cul-de-sac, and it's over, if you're coming down the road, it's over on the left-hand side, and it kind of tracks alongside what was Boxley. So, yeah. So we are hoping, this is the first project that has been in CIP, in the city CIP. We don't have a lot of land within the city that we control or own it, or is flat to build on. This is certainly not flat, but it could be doable. And we just need to make sure that we have sites available so that we control those and we can do something with them. So we have done a master plan, which then allowed us to go to the state and apply for a grant to do due diligence. We captured all those expenses, and that's how we programmed the capital improvement program that is before City Council. And our capital improvement programs go for a 5-year span. So we loaded that through, for 5 years. And the first big chunk was in 25, and that was to complete a road access actually to the sites and to get utilities to those sites. So we are in process with that now, but as I said, the due diligence report and the CIP submission did not coincide. I had a gap, and that's when I went to the Virginia Business Ready Sites Program to apply for their grant. And they want to see that you've applied for everything that's available. So I was definitely going to apply to VDOT anyway, but I expedited that application as well. And we would never have been able to apply for this grant if City Council had not put that matching money in the CIP. So this is a really big deal when it comes to Lynchburg kind of business attraction or site development. So it's kind of a red letter day that they're supporting this, and that we're out there trying to get any additional funding that we can to keep the ball rolling. But it's a lot. I mean, if any of you've ever applied for a grant, you know that there's a lot of times bad language used as you do that. And Keisha, don't even get her started. Right? Because they'll do something like on a Friday afternoon, you submitted absolutely everything exactly the way they wanted it months ago. And somebody will pop up in your email and go, I'm sorry, but we're missing your quarterly report. All of us have a heart attack. And then they go, oh, my bad. You finished this months ago. Anyway, thus I digress. Yes.
Used to reduce the congestion you expect to have? With
No,
a lot of
it's
sites?
to get that site.
To get the sites up.
Yeah, it's to open up 2 sites that people could expand, could put a building on. Cameron is getting us a poster board that shows what the sites can look like, updated. So we'll bring that and get that, but we're using that for the meeting on the 23rd. So we hope what it will prepare is hopefully a 50,000 square foot building could go on one site, on B, and on A could be a 600,000 square foot building. So,
Maybe you could share with Kevin sometime those sort of flyover things that you did.
oh yeah, the drones,
Yeah.
drone footage, yeah, and I've just gotten that updated too.
I could put the whole presentation in Dropbox.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a nice, easy overview.
Yeah, and it's really, Cameron's worked really hard to, condense it and have it, the key points in there is what you come up with and see.
Great.
600,000, how many square feet?
600,000, yeah.
Like Campbell County is 100,000.
Yeah,
they're
they just
building,
put up
right?
they're just broke ground on a 100,000 square foot, like, shell building,
Yeah.
right? And the airport will be even bigger than that. Airport could put 1 million square feet. Not saying anybody needs that, but the truth is, we haven't had a site, or greenfield site prepped or ready that belonged to you all in quite some time, right? So we want to make sure we got all this in place so that we're in the game when it comes to people looking for a place to expand or do anything with. It's still slow, but we've had several more prospects for the River's Edge building, which is also, Kevin, at the bottom of the hill down there. That used to be the old Erickson building, so it was all part of y'all's empire at one point in time. But that's a beautiful building, and I had new drone footage done for them too, so that, we're walking alongside them, because we would love for that building to go to someone that's gonna create a lot of jobs, right? We're awaiting the contract for the RFP on Wigington Road. So we've had a meeting, and they're working on it. Once again, I don't know if you saw on social media, but we and I think I told you all before, but we were awarded, the PDGA is coming back in October here, and then we were awarded 2 more tournaments for disc golf in '26. So that's really exciting. Andrew continues to kill it, and then Abby has given you, we try to line these up with the goals that we have for the department, and Abby tries to give everybody a little snapshot into what's going on around the city. And I've been working on RFPs for city-owned property upstairs. And I wanted to tell you that I went to my first, so embarrassing, Air Service Development Conference, and I was incredibly well received thanks to Sackett Wood. I'm just saying, everybody for every one of the airlines was 28 years old. I try to be as colorful as possible, so you don't forget that, both in personality and dress. It was fascinating. We saw 8 airlines, but my swag was unparalleled, right? Thank you notes from all of the people. But I'm just saying, to think about, just like CIP, to think that you spent a whole career here, and the economic development director was never with the airlines. I mean, going on those appointments, right? So everybody else that was there was with their tourism and economic development people. So I put the notes from that meeting in your Dropbox, and Kevin, I just sent them to you so you could find them easily. So we went to all of the airlines. Like I said, the notes are in there. That is a hard item to talk about, trying to bring additional service. It's not that everybody here doesn't try, and as you all know, there's a $1 million grant on the table that the airport has secured for anyone that wants to bring us an additional, flight. or a flight going up north, Chicago or somewhere, taking you elsewhere, right? And we've also had a small group of corporate citizens here or anchor institutions here say that they would step up in terms of a grant to help secure another flight here. And that's what it's going to take. It's not that our flights aren't full. It's that if you want to get in the game, they need something to offset. It's no different than the incentives we do when somebody expands here. You're just reducing their barrier to entry. So the EDA was very integral in when Delta came here. You all provided a grant for that. And so as time goes on, I see our office, working with the business community to fully understand what it takes to have this happen. And even with that, American has known that this money is out there for quite some time, right? And it still hasn't been the impetus to get them to do something else. But we had great conversations with them. It does make a difference about the money. We did a presentation for them that let them know the growth that's happening here, let them know the industry that is here, and also the fact that I don't really believe that from a tourism lens, that part of it was injected into the presentations that they've had in the past. So what I'm saying there is all of those variables, all of that information needs to be a full court press. I'm going back again in June to the next one. So stay tuned, because I would probably come to the EDA to ask to encumber like some matching funds to see if we couldn't get the business community, to step forward too. Because one of the big things for me is I've been out there, I've been delayed when that last flight out of Charlotte gets canceled. I've been in the airport when there was trouble somewhere else, and I get all of that, but the airport is so critically important, and if we don't fly out of that airport, it's not, your service is not gonna stay here, right? And I get it that people have to go somewhere, but at least for some period of time, we have to show that that is what we would do. And the statistics, all of the statistics, I'll be happy to put in your Dropbox, and I'm sorry I didn't do it the presentation, because the presentation has a consultant that the airport employs, and it gives you all the stats on everything we do, and you'll be shocked where we fly. Because you would think, that we'd stay pretty close on the East Coast, but we're going way out. We're going out west. We're doing everything, right? Shows where the leakage is. Shows where you go, where they go when they don't come here. And places like Roanoke and Charlottesville have a jump on us, right? Because they've been leaning in with what I'm talking to you about probably for a much longer period of time. But Cedric Simon is the new airport director. I'm going to have Cedric come at some point and make a presentation to you all. But Cedric is really excited and really wants to get this done. And I don't know if I've mentioned it to you all, but the airport is actually going to have a business development officer whose responsibility is those things, which is to get another flight here, work with the business community to do that, all of these things. And they're going to live in my office. Right? So I think telling the story and getting the story out there to my CEOs and all of those folks, right, can be really helpful, because all of us are, you all, everywhere I go, that's one of the first things people say is what's going on at the airport. I need a team behind me to turn that around. I don't need, there's reasons for that, just like there are in any business, and, we need to address them. So, very exciting, and I'll put that presentation in your Dropbox.
Courtship, that we're
Yep.
not waiting on them, we have to continue to. And it would be another airline, or
It could be American giving us additional flights. It could be, it could be it could be a smaller, airline that goes to a destination that connects people. And
Okay.
it could be multiples. It could be any, of the above, but each one of them serves, specific areas and they're truly, all looking for what are you going to do or guarantee that reduces, their risk to enter or to,
Yeah, I mean, the conference you went to, you got to tell our story to 8 different airlines.
Yes.
I didn't even know there were 8 different airlines.
yeah.
I didn't either.
Yep. There's a whole lot of smaller airlines, and how all that works is fascinating, but, United,
Breeze.
American, went to Breeze, Avelo, and Delta,
SkyWest.
JetBlue?
they weren't there.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a whole different world of prospecting,
Okay.
right? And like I said, I made an impression thanks to Sackett-Wood. On point. Incredible. And here's the other thing. They are they're very low key because they sit there and listen to you give the spiels, right? And their face is never supposed to change. Like they can't show that something, made them think differently and all that. And you know me, I'm like an explosion when I come in somewhere. Anyway, I get all of them and I'm going, I need a picture for, they don't really, want you taking it, but I took all of that and I'm like, I'm going to save this and give it to Sackett and tell him you can't put it out on social media, but I just wanted him to know that here is the head of the United has got Sackett's thing standing there. It was amazing. Little juice in the tank, y'all.
Well, that's a valuable update, and it's great that you're now in the room for those meetings. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's a fight
I'm
that's
so
been-
excited for all of you all and us to move in this direction, to all as a community come together, to start to really lean into this with what we need to do. The city is already looking at the airport itself and upgrading the experience you can have out there. Some of the people I talked to, the tourism departments in cities sponsored lunches and dinners for this conference. Right, so it's a big deal to gather all of that, information there and put your community, on the map with them to show all of the ways that you might be able to, just like the PDGA thing, we had 291 participants that came to that internationally, right? And if you don't put it out there for them, they're not going to know. So you all will be ambassadors, as you are for everything, to be on the on the inside, understanding what this is and what we need to do to get it done. Okay, that's all. Now we need to go into closed session.
Any questions on staff report or comments before we move forward? Ted, will you lead us into closed session, please?